I'm Aoife Tunney and good morning. As Lucy said, we'll have time at the end for questions, so keep them till then or pop them in the chat throughout and we'll get to them. Hopefully we won't have too many unanswered questions. So today we're looking at the Culture Moves Europe Residency Hosts 2025 to 2026, which opened in 2025 and has a deadline in March 2026. We'll go through the desk, just a little overview about what we do, and then we'll get into the call itself. If you could move on, thanks, Lucy. So the Creative Europe desk, I'm sure you're well aware of what we do. So I said, yeah, we'll go through this, the overview of what we do, and what we are kind of here for in terms of an information desk. We will then go into the call in detail, how to apply, what it's for, the main kind of elements of it, the timeline, and then we'll have time, as we said, for questions at the end. So just to get into what the Creative Europe Desk is, what our role is. Creative Europe Desk Ireland have three offices. So there's the media side of the program, and they have two offices, the Media Office Dublin and the Media Office Galway. So if you have any queries that are more related to the audiovisual, they're the offices to be in touch with. But there are also us, the Culture Office, where we are on the side of the Culture sub-programme, and we are based in the Arts Council as our national host. So to look at really what we do throughout the year, so we set a program of events for the year, whether they're in-person events or online events, providing information on European funding. So the Creative Europe program, as I said, we're the culture program, the culture side of it. So we look at opportunities to kind of give out that information and exchange the details that you will need to know to apply. We also support you as applicants throughout the process. And we, as part of our remit, we support and promote diversity, inclusiveness, and sustainability. And you'll see how we weave that throughout our program events in the year. We develop an advice, as I said, we kind of will lead with you on a European funding application, and whether that's in-depth development or just a liaison, it depends on what your needs are. We network and we collaborate. So we host webinars such as today's, workshops as well, or in-person events where we might partner with other entities around European applications and European calls. And we will encourage cross-border cooperation within those events in the culture and creative sectors. So we also work closely with our colleagues in the Arts Council. Obviously, they're very core to the culture and creative sector in Ireland as well. So we will collaborate with them, and we will always be incentivizing how you can work internationally and cross-border within Europe. And our next slide. So to look at Culture Moves Europe itself, it was introduced in 2021 as a permanent call, and it was a follow-up to what was before that, Opportunist, which you might remember yourselves. It's all about mobility for individual artists or and cultural professionals, or for residency hosts for artists as well. So there's 21 million across the current program, 2021 to 2027. And as I said, it promotes cultural and artistic mobility, and that's across the 40 Creative Europe countries by supporting individual mobility and residency projects. So the scheme has two actions: individual mobility, which is also open at the moment as a call. So if that's more what suits what you're trying to do, then go ahead and have a look at that on the Goethe Institute website. Or today's call is about the residency hosts. So each call contributes to the travel and subsistence costs. So it offers top-ups based on your applicant's situation. There's green mobility, family support, disability needs, and the whole call is funded by the European Union, but it's managed by the Goethe Institute. So you will see later on in the presentation that you will be applying through the Goethe Institute itself. And the next slide, thanks. So the Culture Moves Europe residency call, who is it for and what is it for? So it is for legal entities. So that is a list of non-profit organizations, NGOs, public bodies, foundations, companies, self-employed persons, etc. You must be registered and based in one of the Creative Europe countries, including which can include the overseas countries and territories and outermost regions. You must have the capacity to host the proposed residency project with the artists or cultural professionals from other Creative Europe countries. And regardless of being a newly or well-established entity, the applicants must be active in one of these eligible sectors: architecture, cultural heritage, design and fashion design, literature, music, performing arts, and visual arts. So there's specific, they are the specific sectors that are applying to this call. And thanks, Lucy. So the purpose of the call, so there are objectives which you will see later on you will be selecting as the purpose of your specific project. So it is either to explore, which would be around conducting research, investigating work on a specific theme or a new concept, to create, to engage in a collaborative or collective creative process seeking to produce a new piece of artistic or cultural work, to learn and to enhance the participants' competencies and skills through, for example, collaboration with a specialist, to connect, developing a professional network to strengthen the participants' professional development or to engage with new audience, to transform, to contribute to societal change in line with the new European Bauhaus values and principles. So there are the list of objectives, and you will be asked to select two of those which will apply to your project. Thanks, Lucy. So who is it for? As we said, it's for legal entities that are registered and based in one of the 40 Creative Europe countries. So there's a link there to the specific countries that are within the Creative Europe that are aligned to the Creative Europe program. It supports them to welcome up from 1 to 5 international artists and cultural professionals for a residency project, and the participants must be at least 18 years old and legal residents, as we said, in a Creative Europe country. And the grant contributes to the costs of inviting and hosting those international artists and cultural professionals. Thanks. So when it comes to applying, this is a new element. So there are two phases. So phase one is submitting the application, describing the residency project together with the required supporting documents about the legal entity. So that's the phase one at the deadline. And then it might move into phase two. So if you're selected in phase one, applicants can proceed to choose the artists and cultural professionals who will be their residents, and then they complete the second and final part of their application. And we can see later on the dates around that. The duration of the residency, so it can range between a 21-day residency or the maximum a 90-day residency. So it depends on the number of days. The residency will be categorized as short term, so 21 to 31, medium term, 32 to 62, or long term, 63 to 90 days is the maximum. And the next slide, thanks, Lucy. So looking at the residency grant, so what is the grant? There is a hosting allowance, which is allocated obviously to the host, and then there are daily allowances, travel allowances, and top-up, which are allocated to each participant based on the individual travel plans and needs. So the grant calculations are made specifically for each beneficiary based on their project and participants' personal situations. The residency host is responsible for distributing the corresponding amounts to each participant. So residency hosts can get several grants under the Culture Moves Europe residency actions with different projects and participants, but their applications are limited to one per call period. So for this call, you'd be just limited to applying for one. Um, and the next slide, thanks. So as we said, there's the full residency grant, and that is offering financial support to the host and the resident. So a host allowance is €50 per day per resident. So depending on how many residents you have for the residency project, the resident will get €30 per day each. The accessibility support is available as well, and it's a fixed amount of 375, 675, or 1,200, depending on the duration of the residency, um, and what the needs are per resident. And the next slide. Thanks, Lucy. There's a travel allowance, and this is a set amount for €400 for a distance for travel distance under 5,000 kilometers and 800 for travel distance over 5,000 kilometers. And this is calculated automatically in the application form, and it's based on what they call a one-way straight line. And the next slide, thanks. So for under 600 kilometers, traveling by airplane is only allowed in exceptional cases. So for persons with disabilities, for traveling to an island with no ferry connections, or force majeure, grave personal circumstances. As we said, the distance calculated, there's a link there so you can see how it's calculated, or it'll be within your application process. And the next slide. Thanks, Lucy. So there is a green mobility top-up, and we saw this in previous calls, for residents who decide to travel by any other means other than an airplane, and this is €400, and the distance straight line must be from their place of residence, and the destination must be 600 kilometers or more. Overseas and territories and outermost regions also get a top-up of €175. There's a family top-up of €200 per child under 18, and a visa top-up of €120 if you need support with a visa application, etc. And the next slide, thanks. So looking at the kind of criteria around this project, so you will need a concept for the residency project to host between 1 and 5 residents. It should follow two of these objectives as we looked at: to learn, to create, to explore, to connect, or to transform. The capacity must be there to implement the residency project and provide adequate accommodation and workspaces for your residencies, for your residents. So yeah, you need to have thought that through, or have the capacity, how that will happen, the accommodation and the workspace, and that might not necessarily be within your home, but it is an arrangement that you need to facilitate. You need at least one mentor to provide artistic guidance to the residents who are on this project. So the supporting documentation for the whole application: the proof of legal entity, the legal entity's artistic portfolio or promotional report, the mentor's short CV. And if the application is selected and passes to phase 2, the applicants must submit a residency info card. So a little bit more detail than previously, with information about each chosen resident. And this includes their official national identification, a CV, artistic and creative portfolio, and proof of legal residence. So we'll look at that now. The next slide, please. So what is the residency info card? It's basically more information. And when you look within the call document, you will see there is a list of the things that can change. So let's say you put your information in for the residency card, and by the time you get to your residency, some elements might have changed. So there is a list of elements, because within the residency information card, they will calculate your whole project grant from that detail. And if certain things change, that will change your calculation, your grant. So there are things that you cannot change within the implementation of your residency. So you need to really, really read through the call. I have a link in a minute up for the call document because it gives you a list of the things that you can and can't change, basically. So when you provide the information for your residency info card, you'll be asked for the official national identification ID card or other official document that proves one's identity, and that can be in any language. The short CV, a one-page document summarizing the personal information, contact details, relevant education and professional experience of each resident, and that must be in English. An artistic and creative portfolio, a document that focuses on the artistic creative work of each resident, including examples of personal creations, projects, ideas, etc. And that must be in English as well. And the next slide, thanks, Lucy. So these are just kind of prompt questions that we've put together to get you thinking about your project in advance. Um, they will help you do a very kind of solid application, looking at whether the residency project is relevant for the applicant's work and activities, whether the project has long-term impact and benefits. Does the artist require to travel for this project? So kind of really embedding that into the project description. Are sustainable aspects in the mobility and implementation of the project? Is the mobility sufficiently well planned? So these are the questions that will kind of prompt you to pull together a strong application. There is an FAQ, excuse me, within the Goethe Institute, and we have the link there. So there are other questions if you have them, you can, because they're most up to date. And then there's an application queries email contact there for the Goethe, who, as I said, they will be managing this application call. And then the next slide, thanks, Lucy. So the results so far for Ireland, we've had 119 individual artists and cultural professionals have been successful through Culture Moves Europe, with over €335,000 coming into Ireland for these projects. These are some examples for residency hosts, applicants within Ireland, and then some individual artists as well. And destinations have included Spain, remote Arctic Norway, Berlin, Serbia, Paris, Stockholm, and Canary Islands, and more, obviously. So it is a really great opportunity, and we see more and more successful projects and successful hosts coming out of Ireland. So it is a great opportunity. And the next slide, please, Lucy. So as I said, you download your Culture Moves Europe, the call document. So the most up to date, that link is from this morning. So it is the most up to date, to just double check that you've got the most up to date information. As I said, the Goethe Institute will be implementing this call, so you'll be processing it through the Goethe application portal, or the GAP. So you will go into that link, you'll create an account, you register as an organization or an enterprise, and then you select the Culture Moves Europe call for Residency Hosts 2025 to 26. So make sure that's the exact call that you're applying to, and then you fill out the form. So as you go, you can save and edit until you have your final submission, which is kind of useful. And then the final. So then looking at the key deadline. So this is the call, the residency host, which closes on the 16th of March, 2026. And it's Central European Time, 1 minute before 12, like the last possible second before 12 o'clock on that day. So make sure you're in the right time zone. After the deadline, the applications are either approved or rejected. And if you're approved, you go in, as we looked at earlier on, into the second phase, phase two. The results are evaluated and processed within 2 months. Applicants will be notified by the 5th of May 2026. Your residency info card, if successful, you can proceed to select your residence and submit your information card at any time between the 5th of May and the 30th of September. And then your implementation period. After the final approval and signing of the grant agreement, hosts can carry out the residency from 8th of June 2026. That's the earliest start date until the 7th of June 2027. And that's the latest, the end date there. And the next slide, please. So yeah, so just to get in touch with us, and we have Lucy, so it's between either myself or Lucy on our email, or check out our YouTube channel of any other information that you might see through other webinars we've recorded, or our website has all the updated information, and then obviously on social media. And we do have time for questions, so if there are any, we might finish up and we'll take some questions.